All right, welcome everybody again to another episode of Friends Occasionally Not Disagreeing. I'm Cody, and I'm going to be the host here for tonight as we get into kind of a supernatural topic, which we'll intro in just a second. Our corporate shout out here today, just to say if you or your friends enjoy our podcast, share it with them. Help us spread our wonderful musings that we have with each other here. And shout out to everyone celebrating Pride Month this month. Is that controversial? Can we say that? All right, we got thumbs up. We're
and
good.
it shouldn't be controversial.
And we're done in Florida again. That was a good run we had, guys. We lasted a few weeks.
We love everybody. Love yourselves. It's great.
Yeah.
You're all amazing.
All right.
He said.
Well, our episode tonight is a bit of a local flair to it. We're headed back to Supernatural, as we talked about, and this is going to feature something called the Paulding Light, which is let's call it a phenomena for right now, and we'll get into the details of this in just a bit here, but this is kind of localized to a very small remote place in kind of southwest-ish in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, little town called Paulding nearby. But
Isn't
anyway,
it Watersmeet?
It's actually in Watersmeet.
It's near Watersmeet, yeah.
South of Watersmeet, north of
Watersmeet.
Paulding. It's actually between the two. If we want to get
It is.
I believe some might
technical
call
here.
it Watersmeet.
All right, so let the other hosts introduce themselves here tonight.
Hello,
Right,
I'm Joe.
Hi,
I'm
Joe.
Justin.
Justin.
Matt.
Wow. Coming
Man,
up
the
firing
energy is
again.
through the roof right now.
Coming out firing once again. Here we go. So I guess maybe we can do just like a brief intro as to what this is, but this is mostly going to be, I think, led by personal experiences and stories here today, because our revolving cast of hosts that are here with us tonight here all have some sort of story I believe they're going to share with you, dear listener. So some kind of basic things here that I found about this just as I was doing some refreshing for myself today. Near as I could tell, 1966 is the first sighting of what we refer to as the Paulding Light. And I guess we should get out of the way right away that this is some sort of spherical ball of light that we'll talk about and probably debate some things about in the episode here today, but essentially appears at the end of this dead end road, really out in the middle of nowhere in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. There is a short dead end road with a guardrail, and I probably was out there maybe 3-4 times. I don't really know exactly, but one of the things I always loved about this place is that it drew such a diverse crowd. And like any given night you'd come out there, you'd see like 4 guys on a motorcycle who were drunk. You'd have like 20 college students who were in the back of their cars freezing under blankets. And then you'd have a couple people like randomly dressed up that were out there that you just kind of wondered why they were there. And there was always like the kooky person or two who like tried to tell everybody there that they knew more about it than everybody else that was there, and random other people that were there as well. So, yeah, so I guess maybe we'll just kind of jump into this, like I said, because there's just a lot of theories about this thing. More so than maybe some of the other supernatural stuff we've covered here, and cryptozoology stuff we've covered here on the podcast. So does anybody want to start with like a tale they have, or kind of just some basic info they know about this particular topic?
Well, if no one else is going to go. So I first heard about this when I was in college, because I spent a couple of years going to Michigan Tech, which is up in Houghton, and is relatively close to the area, the Watersmeet Paulding area where the light is. And that was the first time I'd heard about it. I don't think I got a chance to go see it until years later when I was going to Northern Michigan University, which is in Marquette, sort of to the south.
Sorry to interject, for the record. I just want to say tuck feck. Anyway, go on.
Hey, I got better. I ended up choosing the better school. Anyway, so I had gone to see it a couple of times, and it's like Cody said, it's off of US 45, a little road called Robbins Pond Road. You follow that, it's just like a dirt, well, pretty much a 1-lane dirt road that you follow in, and there's a sort of parking area, guardrail, and you can go past the guardrail on foot. There's nothing stopping you. It's just so you can't drive all the way down. And that goes for miles and miles and miles. I've never walked the whole thing, but I do understand it. There's like a stream that cuts through it at some point. It curves, so you can't walk directly across towards where the light is. But if you stop at the guardrail, you'll see off in the distance, there's like a hill, kind of a series of hills. There's woods on either side, and there's power lines that go down the cleared path where the road continues. And at the far end, pretty much every night, sometimes during the day, you'll see these lights that, you know, sort of flicker and bob and sway at the very, very far end of the road. I've never seen them really come closer. Sometimes they're brighter than others. Sometimes they're dimmer. Sometimes they're kind of reddish, and sometimes they're pure white. I have a very, very old set of photos that are very low resolution, but one of them looked kind of greenish. I don't know if that was from the light shining through leaves or what, but you know, it was a slightly different color. For most of my trips, that's all I ever experienced. Just glimmering light at the end. Eventually got cold, turned around, went home. Except for one, and this is the. I'm pretty sure there's a rational explanation for it, but I'm just going to go in with what happened. So I was with my girlfriend at the time, now my wife, and she had never seen it. So I'm like, well, I've been a few times. Let's go some random weekend. So we hop in the car. I pack my camera, I pack my tripod just to try and get some more photos, and we head off, drive on down there, and it's getting kind of dark by the time we arrive. So we park kind of off to the side of the guardrail. And I get out, I open the trunk, and I'm digging in there, getting the camera and the tripod, and I see something fall just like near me, just out of the corner of my eye. And I look down, and there's a hat sitting on the ground, like, you know, just like to the right of me. And I'm like, okay, I must have knocked it out of the back of the car when I was digging. So I pick it up, I toss it in the back, get the stuff, and I don't think anything of it. We spend some time there, you know, I get some photos, and we end up going home. And when we get back to my apartment, I say, oh, by the way, I think I accidentally dropped your hat out of the back of the car. I brushed off all the dirt, don't worry. And she's like, what hat? So I go in the trunk, I pull out the hat and say, this one. And my wife says, I've never seen that hat before in my life. And I'm like, well, is it maybe your dad's or something? Because, you know, her parents live in the area. She's like, no, I've never seen that hat before in my life. I'm actually wearing the hat right now. It's kind of it's gray plaid. Hang on, I'm going to take it off because for those of you listening at home, we actually have video that we're conversing through. So I'm just going to show the other hosts here. One moment. So it's gray plaid, some red in it as well. It's, you know, it looks fairly new. There's a tag that does have like washing or at least, you know, material and whatnot. It's a Broner brand hat, Broner. I had never seen it before for a while. I actually resisted putting it on because I'm like, okay, this is really weird. I
mean, your head is haunted now.
Yeah, that was the thing. I've never been too much of a superstitious person. I've always kind of wanted to believe in this stuff, but you know, there's a rational side of me that usually takes over. But at the same time, this was really, really weird. Just you know, out in a place that's reported to be haunted, and I am just essentially what I thought possibly at the time handed a hat by ghosts. I'm like, okay, that's really weird, and I hung on to it because it's a conversation piece. I didn't put it on for like 2 years after I found it, and I've worn it since. I'm still alive, to the best of my knowledge.
Or are you?
There was a weird stretch where anytime I wore it for
You
a
were
while,
dead.
Well, no.
There was that one
There
weird
was a stretch when I was not
stretch.
alive.
Doctor said I was dead for 2 weeks, but
where
other than that,
where it didn't seem like people would notice me, like even people I knew. And I know this sounds like I'm just bullshitting, but I remember I was wearing it once out because it was a sunny day. I wanted the sun off my eyes. So I was wearing it downtown. I went to the post office to like get stamps or something, and there was a big long line. In the line, several people ahead of me, there was someone that I and actually the rest of this group know. And I'm like, she'll notice me at some point. And, you know, so I don't think much of it. I'm just standing in line, and I'm there for like 10 minutes. And I swear she like looked back in my direction and there was no flicker of recognition at all. Like she was just looking past me or through me or just didn't recognize me.
My God.
It's
the browner of invisibility.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Funny.
that's the strangest thing I have regarding the Paulding Light.
Spooky.
Now, was it a ghost that handed me this hat? Probably not. It
I
was
say
probably
yes.
just in all likelihood, it was probably like in a branch of a tree or something, and a gust of wind kind of just knocked it down coincidentally where I was standing. But
Were there other people there at the time?
Yeah.
Okay.
The strangest thing about that story to me is that you would have assumed that that hat was worn by your wife to begin with. I could not picture her wearing that hat.
Well, to be fair, this was fairly early in our relationship.
Okay, that makes sense.
So, but yeah, she doesn't actually wear many hats. So in retrospect, yeah, that's also kind of weird. But yeah, so I have a keepsake. Supernatural or not, you be the judge. I feel like I've talked to her enough, so someone else can.
Who's going to tell him? Who's going to tell him that there actually is no hat in his hand?
My God.
If only we'd have thought of that beforehand.
That's true. There is no hat, Justin.
Are we moving on to other stories, or where are we at?
Yeah, go for it.
So I had never heard of the Paulding Light until my sophomore year of college. I had a roommate who I'm not convinced was not a ghost. I'm just gonna leave that there. No.
Did he have a Broner hat?
He did. My God. No, I had this roommate named Mike who was like this awesome. Like we were randomly assigned together, and we ended up being like best friends. And weirdly, so he was my roommate for my first semester of sophomore year, and then after that, he like just disappeared. Like I literally have no idea what happened to him. I hope he's still alive out there and thriving because he was an awesome dude. But like I like lost track. I think he's one of those people who like never got into like social media or anything, and so like I like literally don't know where he is. So hey Mike, if you're out there, hit me up. It'd be cool. Anyway, but he was like a really just he was a really outgoing guy, like one of those people who is just kind of like guileless, like no pretense, like just put himself out there, like just open to the world. And through that there was this group of gals who lived in our dorm at Northern Michigan University, and he kind of became friends with them. And so like I became friends with them. And so all of us would hang out, you know, on occasion. And this one night, this was like the middle of the night, it was like midnight, maybe even a little bit later. They all decided that they wanted to make a trip to Watersmeet to go to try to see the Paulding Light, which I'd never heard of before. Like they kind of explained it to me on the way there, but I just, you know, went along for the adventure. And so we got there. This was also in winter, I should mention, like dead of winter, so everything's frozen over. We get there, like I said, after midnight at some point, and super dark everywhere. And we go to the like official viewing spot. There's like a plaque there and everything. As Justin mentioned, you know, there's like a barricade, but you can kind of go past that. And especially since it was so late at night, we just kind of said, you know, screw it. And so we started the official viewing spot, and we could see the light. Like it was just like this kind of round, orangish, yellowish light off in the distance. And looked at it. It was just the light that was there. Didn't think a whole lot of it, but it was kind of like, I didn't know what it could be. And they did, I mean, mostly Mike decided, because he was a little bit on the reckless side, that we should, you know, go past the barricade thing and try to get closer to it. So we, you know, went past the barrier, climbed down. Because it was winter, the like water that was near it was frozen over. So we just started walking, and I think it was me, Mike, and like four other people, four ladies, and just started walking. We walked for like 45 minutes or so, I think, towards the light. The weird thing to me is that it never felt like we were getting any closer to it. Like it just was this sort of constant distance away from us. It felt like no matter, we walked like a half hour, 45 minutes towards it. It didn't seem like it was getting any closer. Finally, after probably 45 minutes, 50 minutes, whatever, part of the group that we were with had disappeared. And so it was me and this girl, Ashley, that I was friends with. And the others that were with us were just nowhere in sight. Like we tried calling to them. There was no response, no nothing. I'm not attributing this to the Paulding Light at all, for the record. Like, I'm not saying this is some sort of weird paranormal thing, but they just like disappeared. So we started getting a little bit nervous because it's the middle of the night and like, we don't know where they are. So we eventually just gave up and turned around and walked back to, the official viewing area. And 45 minutes, however long the walk back was, we got back and they were waiting for us by the car, which was weird because it seemed like there was really only one way out, one way back. And
Yeah,
we didn't cross paths at all. So it was like, I don't know how that happened. But I mean, we got back, turned around, looked at the light. It looked the same as it had the entire time. Like, wasn't any closer, any further. Didn't seem like it was really wavering at all, which is something that we might talk about when we get into theories and stuff. But like in my experience, it was just this like constant, like spherical light hovering in the distance fairly consistently. And like I said, it didn't seem like we got any closer to it, despite our best efforts. So it's pretty weird. I mean, that's all I can really say. I mean, that's the only time I've ever been there. So that's my only experience with it, but it was pretty interesting.
sounds good. Mr. Hudson, you want to go next or want me to go next?
I can sort of go, I suppose. This might ramble on kind of long, but that's cool. All right, so I don't know how long I was at Northern before I heard of this thing, and it's very possibly you, Cody, who told me about it. If it wasn't you, it might have been Dan, and if it wasn't Dan, it might have been Brandon. I think it was one of you three. Anyway,
Okay.
Somebody then told me that it was featured on the television show Unsolved Mysteries, which I have a small obsession with. I had a collection of videos that I had like used to record the show and then like compile the segments on my own tapes and whatnot. All right. I don't recall anything on the Paulding Light. I looked for this episode. I found people who had episodes online and traded with them. I now have an almost complete collection of every episode of Unsolved Mysteries, with a couple of exceptions, by the way, because I've been looking for the damn thing forever. It doesn't exist. Okay. It doesn't exist. I don't remember the first time I went out there to see it. I didn't see much of anything. I think we thought we saw like a little ball in the light in the sky, like moving around, but I think it was just because I was staring at the sky for too long. I do remember when we went out to go see it, again, we were still under the impression that Unsolved Mysteries filmed a segment there. So it was me, my friend Kyle, and my friend Alex. We were actually singing the song a lot of the time there. Kyle was doing the drum. He was, and I was going do 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 do, and then Alex was just kind of doing the in the background. So it was like, imagine this weird a cappella Unsolved Mysteries theme. And this is a 2-hour drive, mind you, but it was happening most of the time there. So I don't know, like years later, they finally released a DVD set of some Unsolved Mysteries stuff. Now, most of those sets are crap, by the way. I ended up having to make my own years later because I thought those sets were crap. The first one they released was Ghosts. And I look at it, there's an episode on there called like Ghost Lights or something. And I'm like, oh shit, that's it. Finally, it's the holy grail I've been looking for. The Unsolved Mysteries segment on Paulding Light. I get it, and it's just the one about the Marfa lights, which is a very similar thing, by the way. There's a whole bunch of places like this where crap like this happens.
Good point.
There's Marfa lights, there's the Gurdon lights, the Paulding lights. Anyway, like it was the one I had already seen, and I'm like, oh man. So I was kind of annoyed by that. So a little coda of that story is like years later, I started listening to this podcast that these ladies did about unsolved mysteries, and that was like every night they like ask you to send them stories about them. That's the first one I sent them, was my quest to find the Paulding Light episode, which didn't exist. And I'm listening to them read another story that someone from Canada is like, there's a ghost light up there somewhere. I don't know where, but they're like, I heard there was an unsolved mystery segment on this ghost light, and I've been looking for it forever. And I'm like, you're never going to find it. Never. It doesn't exist. Like the unsolved mysteries, the Marfa lights, they did the Gurdon lights. That's it. But the story you hear about Paulding, like the actual, like the legend or whatever that's on the little sign there with a little ghost. If you watch the Gurdon Light episode of Unsolved Mysteries and just they never said that, you would assume it could be the Paulding. I mean, it's a very similar story. Like it's the lantern of a train guy who was, in this one, it was somebody who was murdered. I believe in the Paulding Light story, he got like decapitated about the train or something. I don't remember.
Spoilers.
There's a couple different stories.
Is that a spoiler?
Yeah.
I thought that's what we're.
I'm kidding.
Okay.
But I'm assuming we'll get into some of the stories and theories a little bit later.
Yeah.
Okay.
When I finally did see a light there, it wasn't what I was expecting, because I expected it to sort of be hanging in the sky, like up above the horizon. But it really, what I saw was just on the horizon, just this like, I mean, very bright light, like kind of like, I don't know. It looked like an 80s film effect. That's
That's fair.
Was that the end of the ramble?
I think that was the end of the ramble.
Oh.
I thought it was going to ramble. I thought it was going to
so
ramble
long.
more. I went there like maybe 3 times. Did we go once, Justin? Did you
And
go
then
with
he
me
keeps
once?
talking.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like we need to take a podcast trip there and solve this once and for all.
That would be amazing.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
The ticks are bad this year from what I hear, so just be warned.
I mean, you just have to bring a friend that you drag through the grass. You'll be fine. Or just be like Joe and lose your friends.
It's true.
Yeah, I like
It
how you
was-
just left them for dead out there in the middle
I
of the
mean,
night.
listen, as far as we knew, they left us for dead. I mean, we tried calling for them, like it was so weird. Like they didn't respond. We
That's
didn't hear
especially
them,
weird
apparently they
because
didn't hear us.
the geography, like you would see them walking to the car for quite a
yeah,
while.
and that's the
Yeah.
thing is like they were ahead of us.
Yeah.
But then when we turned back to the car, like they beat us back to the car. So I literally have no idea how that happened.
Must have been whatever little detour you were on with your friend there in the woods.
Now you
Liz,
crossed
hey,
the little
hey.
thing and you just sort of like walked down the trail as far as you could. Do you remember how far you walked?
I mean, I don't know distance wise. Like I said, it was probably like 30, 45 minutes. Like we walked
Yep.
for quite a while. And like the weird thing is that the light didn't seem like it got any closer to us. But
The weird thing was, to me, it felt like we walked. I thought we would walk, me, Kyle, and Alex, the first time we went. I thought we walked like half a mile or something. But then when we turned around and walked back, it was like we'd only walk like 100 yards or something.
Time and distance do not exist at the Paulding Light. All right. Well, I can share a couple little things here. Like I said, I don't remember how many times I've actually been there. It may have been as few as 3. It may have been as many as like 5. I would guess probably somewhere in that range. The first time,
some might call it 4.
well, that's a possibility. And here's one of the reasons why I guess we don't have an official number. The first time I went to go there was my sophomore year, and my car got probably within about 20 miles of this place, and my car's electrical system started to flash on and off while I was driving, and my
Ooh,
car broke down on the side of the road.
Oh man.
spooky.
So the first time I went there to see it, I never actually got to it. That led to a whole nother night's adventure that night. But somehow we ended up on a detour through Michigan Tech en route back to Marquette. But anyway,
Huh.
several people riding in the back of a truck. But anyway, so that's the first time, never made it out there. But I know some of the other times I made it out there, like I said, I always loved the randomness of what you were going to find in terms of who was out there looking at it that night and what their beliefs were and what kind of legends they were talking about while they were there. And there was like one time in particular, I mentioned like the crazy local that has all this stuff, but somebody was there one time, they had like the hatch of their trunk open and they had like literally boxes of photographs and files and like all this, recorded evidence that they supposedly had of the Paulding Light. So I don't know.
Middle-aged lady.
I think this was a guy. Whoa, wait, was it a lady?
Yeah, because if it is, I think
it
I
might
met
have
her.
been.
Yeah,
might have been a lady actually. So somehow I got the idea, having gone out there a couple times at least, that but we should kind of, you guys all set the scene here really good. But if you're listening to us, the best way to picture this would be just like the darkest place you could possibly imagine. Like when the sun goes down out there, it gets like basically pitch black, beautiful stars in the sky because it's so remote and away from light pollution. And so this light that appears on the horizon, like Matt just said, is, really the only thing that draws your eye in at that point, because it's the only light in any real direction other than, what people are creating right next to you for cars or headlights or whatever else.
It's as
Your
dark
eyes
as
are
Cody Fleming's soul.
probably almost as dark as that. But you're just kind of drawn in on that light that's on the distance. Well, somehow, I don't know if it was through talking to these locals that were out there or what, but by like the second or third time I had gone out there, I would hear other people that come out and they'd like point to their friends and like point to the thing on the horizon and be like, there it is, it's the Paulding Light. And they'd all kind of look at it. And I got like this weird, like elitism about like going out there. I remember at one point, just because I had done it like a few times in like a short span at one point. And my belief at the time, and I'm going to still stand to this here during the podcast, is the little light on the horizon way down there is not the actual Paulding Light. Like that is a phenomenon we can discuss here shortly. But I don't believe that thing that most people are referring to as the Paulding Light is actually the Paulding Light. And that kind of gets into a little bit more about what we'll talk about here. But
what you talking about, Cody?
What you talking about, Willis? So I guess jumping into a few other things. So what I've seen out there more is like balls of light that will show up more like down below in the dark forest off to the sides, up in the trees, and occasionally down past the creek on both sides of the trail, but definitely like well below the horizon line where you can see like, they're closer than that mysterious speck that's always just out of reach so far, way down there.
Would you describe this as ball lightning?
Well, we will talk about that in a second here. I do have a note on that.
Oh dear.
And the other thing, similar to Joe, I had gone down past the creek a few times, but one time was out there with, might have been like maybe the Wednesday night social club or somebody, I don't know. I was out there with some people, or maybe it was right before that, but I know Karen was there. And actually it's funny because I told her we were doing this episode tonight, and I was like, without prompting her, I said, give me your recollection of what happened to us that night we walked past the creek. And she basically told the exact same memory that I have. So it just kind of confirmed what I was remembering here, which is similar to Joe. We walked down past the creek up the trail, probably about 45 minutes, I would guess. Ish, where it's a very straight road on the power lines for a very long way, and then the road kind of tapers to the right off into the woods a little bit more. And we had gone down to where it had curved into the woods more, and we're not so far down that road, but a ways down that past the curve, and we heard this, like Karen's description was a motorcycle engine, basically. Mine was maybe like a car engine, something like mechanical, some sort of vehicle was coming at us down this dirt gravelly road in the middle of nowhere in the woods out here. And pretty soon we saw this headlight, we presumed, that was coming towards us on this trail. And you can kind of see it moving through the woods, getting closer to us, and you could hear the engine running of this thing. And so we kind of let it get close to us, and then kind of like started to move off to the side of the road so that whatever it was could pass us, but I don't really know what would be out here on this trail. And it basically didn't get closer to us at first. So we continued walking back towards like the signs by the original part again. And this thing started to move towards us again. The engine noise was coming closer to us again. And essentially we looked back and there was one headlight. So again, motorcycle or car missing a headlight out. I don't know, one of the two. And we just kind of kept moving faster and faster off the end of this curve back to the straight piece because it was gaining on us, whatever it was. And then we turned around and it was gone. And the noise was gone. And I don't know what the hell that was. Very weird with the noise in there because it kind of also is different than most of the stories I feel like people usually have about this thing. But it sounded just like there was a car coming at us with one headlight and then there was nothing there. No engine noise, no light, no anything. And like I said, I prompted her like 2 hours ago and was like, tell me what you remember. And that was the exact same story she just told me. So she remembers that as I do as well. So anyway.
You weren't with a former roommate of yours when that happened?
Say that again?
You weren't with a former roommate of yours that it happened, when that happened?
No.
Because one of your former roommates told me almost that exact same story. And he's a really smart dude, like a really, really smart dude. And I'm like, huh.
Are you talking about Mr. Welling?
Actually, no, the third.
Welling
Brandon,
the third?
Brandon.
Oh.
Brandon said that the Paulding Light chased him, and I was just like,
this would have been years after probably I would have been around Brandon.
That makes sense. I was trying to do that without like outing his name, just because it sounds kind of silly, but
that's fine. So that's probably my weirdest story, though. Honestly, it's just always fun to go out there and see what's going on. So. Okay, should we get into did you comment, Justin?
Oh yeah, one thing regarding vehicles on that path past the barricade.
Yeah.
One of the times I was there before the sun actually went down, I can't remember if it was one or two, but there was at least one kid, possibly two, on like ATVs, just going back and forth down the trail, kicking up dust just to be little assholes. But so vehicles can get there, they're just not supposed to.
Okay.
So yeah,
I actually I actually have a chapter in my book that I've been working on for a very long time that involves my experience at the Paulding Light. And I just took a quick peek at that because it's been a while since I've looked at it. And apparently when we were out there, we came across an not abandoned, but an empty pickup truck at some point past that barrier. Like there was just like a pickup truck parked out there somewhere. So vehicles could definitely get there somehow, even if they're not supposed to be there.
That pickup truck will stay there until that man finds his Broner hat.
Got such a Broner right now.
Not as much as Justin does.
Yeah, you laugh. You're not the one who's going to get
Broner on his head.
Yeah, you laugh. You're not the one who's going to get killed by a redneck ghost in like 10 years.
I think you're safe. Okay. So do we want to go into, well, I guess what do you want to do? Go into theories, I guess? Is that?
Sure.
And we could kind of, you want me to run through my list, or do people want to present some as we go through?
I'm assuming you probably have like all the main ones on your list there.
Yeah,
I have
you can chime in as you go.
I have a few on the list here. I guess I should say too, just before we jump into this proper, Matt had mentioned trying to find this on an Unsolved Mysteries episode, which does exist.
Well,
the Unsolved Mysteries.
I'm kidding.
I'm gonna kill you, man. I'm gonna jump through the internet and kill you.
I definitely Googled that and did not find any.
It does not exist,
so.
but
weird thing about that. Can I say something really about that?
Yeah.
Quick? When we went there, I do recall the sign, the little plaque by it. I remember the plaque saying that Unsolved Mysteries had been there. And then when I look back and saw a picture of it, it does not obviously say that. So maybe I was Mandela affected into another universe or something.
Whoa.
I don't know.
That's weird that you thought the sign.
This is the location from which the famous Paulding Light can be observed.
This is the sign text.
Legend explains its presence as a railroad brakeman's ghost, destined to remain forever at the site of his untimely death. He continually waves his signal lantern as a warning to all who come to visit. To observe the phenomenon, park along this forest road facing north. The light will appear each evening in the distance along the power line right of way. Remember, other people will be visiting this location. Please do not litter. And also there's a picture of what looks like Casper the Friendly
yeah.
Ghost with carrying a lantern.
Trademark.
That's nice. The ghost means how there's no longer
Yeah.
train tracks there.
But
And haven't been for how long? Like 50 years or something?
Yeah, quite a while.
Not
So
since the
that's-
guy lost his hat.
Yeah, the official text from the sign there.
It's not going to be a ghost redneck, by the way. It's going to be some guy who randomly listens to this episode and be like, I remember losing my hat there. I'm going to go find that guy.
Once every 50 years, the ghost reaches through the dimensions to give his hat to someone, hoping that they will set it on the railroad track. But oh no, this asshole took it.
God damn it. You ruined it for everyone, Justin.
And the world has never been the same since. I mean, look at the state of things. It's all my fault.
I mean, he's keeping it going. But no, but I was going to say, Justin also mentioned Michigan Tech. So in recent years, because with the exception of Justin, we've all moved away from this general area. So apparently Michigan Tech did go out there and do a fairly comprehensive study as to what's causing the phenomenon. And if you look at, even on Google Maps, if you pull it up, there's a possibility that you see a road basically like where it starts to turn way in the distance, and the Michigan Tech engineering department essentially determined that's what it is because they coordinated cars to go along this route at certain times and do headlights and taillights, and the reporting from the viewers was that they saw exactly what they were producing on the other end of this trail. So that was their explanation.
I don't believe it. I've read that and I don't believe it.
Since Justin brought that up, that was 8 miles away, it says. That was their official conclusion. However, since then, not Unsolved Mysteries, but the Sci-Fi Channel has gone out on location as well, and their official conclusion was that they have no official conclusion for this.
And if you can't trust the Sci-Fi Channel, who can you trust?
Well, I mean,
scientific research, the Sci-Fi Channel.
We'll see what our debate comes with here, because
what was the previous one you said went and saw it? I apologize.
Michigan Tech engineering department.
Didn't they declare it was headlights? Like
Yes.
they actually like measured where the headlights were and when cars were coming, and like that's when
Welcome
they
to
saw
the
it was when-
podcast. Yep, that's what we
I
were just
mean,
saying.
Jacob Dylan.
Are you drinking right now?
No, I was
Jacob Dylan argued that we can make it home with one headlight. So I don't know.
But we turned the engine and the engine didn't turn.
Oh.
Oh boy. All right. So here we go. You ready for some theories?
No,
Okay. Let me know when you're ready.
go for it.
Okay. Well, I guess we'll start with this one because this does seem to be the one that's advertised on the sign. This is the supernatural / ghost explanation, which I think I've heard different things here too. Like it was a Native American that was hit on the train. It was a conductor who didn't warn somebody in time. There was a train crash caused, yada, yada, yada.
There was the conductor's son. The conductor got killed in a bar fight. There's a whole bunch of different variants.
Colonel Mustard with the lead pipe.
Yep.
Something about a railroad. I mean, we probably disagree on that.
something railroad.
Yeah,
something railroad. So what's our thoughts on this?
bullshit.
well, as I don't believe in ghosts, I don't believe in ghost lights.
What? Where were you for our ghost episode?
Did we screen you for this episode?
Yeah, what?
I told you I didn't believe in it.
He got
Who
in
is
at the
this
last
man?
second.
In terms of the conductor / Native American / conductor's son / anybody and their uncle at this
Spooky.
point. Yeah, it seems, I don't know. It's an interesting angle with the lantern and whatnot and all that. But as we've said, there haven't really been railroad tracks along there for a very long time.
Do you think ghosts
And-
care about that though?
But I mean, why there of all places? Especially if it's one of the other stories, like where it's his son that died or he got killed in a bar fight, that sort of thing. Why would he pick that particular
Could you
spot?
picture how
Ghost-
excited this
ghosts get
ghost was,
ghosts, man.
though, when he's been haunting this particular stretch of woods for 100 years before somebody finally picked up on it?
Yeah, he's got a
Come on.
plaque and shit now. Like, come on.
Like living large without his hat.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't put much stock in this theory.
No, I agree. I mean, honestly, I agree with Justin. I don't necessarily believe that it's a ghost or anything. Like it's complicated for me. Like based on what I saw, I don't believe it's a ghost, but I also don't believe it's just headlights off in the distance because
Joe,
what?
why'd you have to go and make things so complicated?
Wamp. Anyway,
Yeah, I'm kind of inclined to agree on this one, even though I was pretty
I
high
mean,
on possibility of ghosts.
if anything, I would believe it's maybe some sort of like electromagnetic phenomenon or something.
Oh, we'll get there. We'll get
I'm
there.
sure we'll get there. I'm just saying, like, I don't think it's ghost. The car headlights thing, just like I don't believe at all because it's just like it's so constant. Like when I was there and I saw it, it's just like this like constant, consistent light. And I would think that if it was car headlights, that there would be like it would be more intermittent, it's not going to be just like a constant light in the distance. So I don't know.
And I could be wrong, but I feel like on the car light angle, which we can go as number 2 here, even though it's been kind of proved and disproved, I feel like by different groups throughout the years, like you said, it's constant, but I swear like sometimes I was there and people were like, well, it just hasn't come out tonight. And like, so you're telling me nobody was on the road that day?
Yeah, I mean, that would be strange too.
Well,
you guys have both mentioned someone you talked to there, I think.
Mhm.
Like there was a woman I saw who was like, that's the car lights. You ain't seen the real Paulding lights yet. Don't come out all the time. Them's the car lights.
I swear you're in a time vortex right now. What is happening?
She mentioned time vortices. If it's the same woman I'm thinking of.
Unfortunately, she didn't go that route with us.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I expressed some interest when I was talking to this lady, and she was like, "Oh, yeah," and she's like pointing to like the various photos and notes she's got. She's like, "And you don't want to stray too far off the path because there's energy vortices that that'll mess with you, and if you go too far, there's shadow people." And I'm like, "Oh, okay. How do I
don't touch any hats you might find."
Was this one of your former customers by any chance?
No,
Some customers that were like that.
I wouldn't have surprised me. This was several years before I worked at that store, but yeah, you get some really odd folks out there.
Car lights, my other note on this one too is I'm still going to fight that a lot of what is out there is the stuff below that one dot and around the area too. So cars obviously can't be that. So
Yeah.
That's out for me, even though I was chased by a ghost car and then it disappeared. But
yeah, I've never seen any lights off in the woods when I went. Are we like on the plausibility versus implausibility of car lights now, or?
Well, what do you think? Yeah, so we went for supernatural ghosts. I have theory 2 here is car lights.
Okay. So there is, if you dig on YouTube, there is some footage from that Michigan Tech research that they did back in 2011, and they had a fairly high-powered telescope that they pointed at the top of that hill, and you can very clearly see cars going by. There's that, but I also managed to dig up on a YouTube channel simply called Craig Nehring, Nehring. Shout out to you. From 2017, where they do a pretty thorough debunking of both in daytime and at night of the lights. I'm gonna share a link to the night one in chat here. But basically, what they did was they had some of their crew, because they were apparently part of a I don't remember which group exactly, but I think it's the Fox River Ghost Investigators or something like that. They had some of their crew go to the barricade where you're supposed to stop and watch, and they had another half of their crew follow US 45 around to where it hits the next intersecting road, which I think, according to Google Maps, is 5250. I'm not sure if that's county road or what, but there is a part where if you follow the power lines, it does cross where that would be probably about 8 miles further down the way. And they basically tell the people who are situated there, okay, on the count of 3 or whatever, flash your spotlight, and they do, and it's very clearly on the video. Or okay, turn around, turn your brake lights on, and the light changes from white to red. Or flash your light in 3, a sequence of 3, and it flashes in a sequence of 3. That seems to pretty much be a hard to refute debunking of any real supernatural explanation for the lights off in the distance, at least to me. So car lights, in my experience, seem pretty like a pretty plausible explanation for that.
So I'm looking at this video like that
Yeah.
you just linked us right now,
Yeah.
and I don't think that explains what I saw, because it's like kind of coming and going over the span of a few minutes.
Hmm.
I mean, what I saw, it was like a pretty constant, substantial light over the span of like 30 plus minutes.
Okay.
And I mean, this video, you know, it's like a couple minutes, and then they change it so that it turns color, and then it goes away,
Hmm.
and then they turn it back on and it comes back.
Hmm.
I don't think there's any way that, you know, just car lights would be able to explain like what I saw, what my experience was.
Okay. That's fair, because honestly, it has probably been about 10 years since I was last there. So I don't remember exactly how consistent the light was when I went there last.
Never went back after the hat, did you?
I don't believe I have. No.
Smart.
Think of all the cool hats you could have now, though.
Try to
many
get his
ghost
attention this
hats.
time. Drop a fez. Let's see if that makes it.
I would wear that fez every day.
Jason Henry,
Fezzes are cool.
Yeah.
the new Bartholomew Cubbins.
So based on what I've seen and what I remember from my experiences, it seems like car lights are a likely explanation, but we can move on to the next one, or unless anyone else wants to chime in on this particular subject.
I just have a
that's-
hard time believing it can be that constant, and I don't think it explains some of the side stuff I've seen out there either.
The only issue I have with car lights, and this is it seems like, I know there are a lot of ghost lights in the world. As I said, there's obviously one in Canada that someone was trying to find the Unsolved Mysteries episodes for. There's Gurdon, there's Marfa. I actually, if you search out ghost light locations, there's a ton of them. But it seems like if it was just car lights, there'd be a lot more. Like, it seems like you could go to any like dead end road, and there's some road off in the distance where you'd see them. But that's the only issue I would have. But
Okay,
That's fair.
fair. Okay, next one. Ball lightning. Ball lightning. So I guess from the little I was reading on this earlier, I was reading like the science behind how this happens. And essentially, it sounds like air gets trapped in a denser bubble of air, and therefore, like, photons somehow make like a orb that moves and then disappears. It's essentially the bubble pressure snaps, I guess.
it's similar to like a Will o' the Wisp or Saint Elmo's Fire or any of those other random like light formations.
Similar too, but those I'm going to talk about those actually coming up here. That
Sorry,
requires.
I don't mean to jump
no, you're
ahead of
fine.
you.
You're fine. That requires more of like swamp gases, though. This does not.
Do you have anything in there on fault lines?
Yep, that's coming up too.
Okay, well, because that's never mind.
So
Continue.
this is theory 3, ball lightning, not lightning, to be clear. Now, this I
So-
think for me could explain some of the side orbs that I feel like I have seen out there. I have a really hard time believing this could possibly explain the traditional light, because it would not last very long, and that's pretty constant. And it would either have to be an optical illusion of it being very far when in fact it's very small and very near, or would be the world's largest ball lightning in the distance that people are seeing from way down the road. One of the two. So, any thoughts here?
Well, it's my understanding that ball lightning is a comparatively rare phenomenon.
Also true.
Yeah. And it usually, I'm reading like a more like scholarly. Well, I'll link it to you guys so you can read what I'm reading. Basically, it seems like it usually is around during other thunderstorms, that sort of thing. And I've been out there in times where it hasn't really been raining, and I gather most of the sightings are when it's not raining. And it, according to this, ball lightning usually only lasts for a few seconds when it does happen. Usually not very large. It talks about something called bead lightning, which I'm not 100% sure what that is, but
If only we all knew an expert on ball lightning.
It was up to you. You didn't bring him.
I know. I'm so sorry.
There you go.
So yeah, it's even bead lightning, which I'm reading about now, seems like it's generally associated with other electrical activity in the air, thunderstorms, and on an occasional explanation, sure, I could see that maybe being part of it, but all the time, pretty unlikely.
I did, just so you guys know, and I would recommend every one of you watch. I should have sent it to you beforehand so you all could have watched it. I did link the Gurdon Light episode of Unsolved Mysteries into the chat.
Okay.
Okay.
Is Justin in it picking up a hat?
No, unfortunately, but like
Boo.
it's worth watching. If they had made one on the Paulding Light, it would have been just like this, just not Gurdon, Paulding instead.
Okay.
Okay.
Any other thoughts here on ball lightning? I mean, to me, that's probably the possibly best explanation for some of the side things I saw, but definitely can't explain the constant light. That's for sure.
I mean, I'm not familiar with ball lightning. Like, I'm not.
I don't think
super
I've ever
familiar,
seen
but
it. Like
I
I remember
just-
reading about it once.
I have.
Not the time you guys think. Like in high school or something, they were talking about various forms of lightning, and I remember coming up and thinking, "Oh, that sounds kind of cool." And
I just
don't think
feel
I've ever seen
like,
it.
I mean, to me, I feel like it would be. I don't feel like it would be consistent enough. Like it's ball lightning seems like it's such a like random and rare phenomenon that I don't think it's really a consistent enough explanation for the Paulding Light, because it seems like that occurs like on a pretty much nightly basis.
Yeah. Kind of agree on that one. Okay, next one here. We got a lot of theories on this. So next one here is we can dismiss this one probably fairly quickly, but I did see it on a few web pages. Aliens.
Aliens. Bow, 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 bow.
Unless they're collecting ticks out in the woods, I think that's pretty easy to dismiss. Because like, why would they choose the middle of nowhere where there's barely any civilization?
Yeah,
because water is their weakness. So why would they go? Like, they're in the middle of the UP, not on one of the edges.
And I mean, again, the consistency thing. I mean, I don't think they would be showing up every night. Like, just be like, "Hey guys, we're aliens."
Okay, we've talked about ghosts. We've talked about aliens. What about alien ghosts?
My God.
That's why they're there every night.
That brings it all together.
Is it Xenu? Maybe it's Xenu.
My God. All right. Well, not a lot of support on the alien theory. Then let's keep going here. So next one here is Hudson. He mentioned fault lines. It's called ley lines. I was looking up energy lines. Is how I got on this terminology, I guess, earlier. But essentially, there's a lot of like more new age people that believe the Earth itself has an energy grid that's kind of like coordinates around it and has interlapping lines and other things of that nature. And I didn't do a ton of research into this, but oddly enough, the first website I found, I just sent you the link to, and if you follow one of the energy lines here, basically goes across the Paulding Light on the first map.
Oh no.
All right. Well, I did. I don't know if you remember, Cody, but there was a point in time where I basically left school because I wasn't doing anything with my life. When I was gone, I took a couple classes at Monroe County Community College just to try to keep myself up to date. And I had to do some sort of, I don't remember how I worked it in, but there was some sort of speech I did, and I ended up giving it on like energy lights or whatever. And the thing that I focused on then was that they were all happened to be on fault lines. I believe Marfa's on one, Paulding's on one. There were a couple others that were listed. I remember thinking, being like, there's a fault line in the UP. I guess there is.
I'm looking at a map compiled by the USGS.
Granted, this was 25 years ago.
That's true.
Or 20 years ago, so I could be wrong. I'm not remembering.
Yeah, the most of the UP is marked as a quote unquote safe zone. Without any I'll link.
Maybe it was hold on, I'm gonna
that's what the government would have you believe.
But yeah, there's in this vein, there's also the subject of earth lights, I've heard them called, that
might be what I heard. Earth lights.
Yeah, that are also things that are said to sometimes appear preceding geological activity. But again, geological activity is the sticking point, and there's not a lot of that in the UP. I mean, as I've never felt an earthquake up here. I'm sure none of you have.
That you know of.
That I know of, yes. But also, again, there would be like a very constant thing. It would be having earthquakes all the time if this was the explanation, even like little mini tremors or something.
Yeah.
And I have heard.
Maybe
Has anyone explored the possibility of graboids? Speaking of tremors, could it be graboids?
That's why your friends disappeared.
It's true.
and reappeared.
Yeah, they spit them out. I mean,
Also,
they
why
just only
Justin
got
found
back-
only a hat.
Yeah. I mean, it was. I had to wash a little blood out of it. I mean, I may or may not be. Yeah, making it up.
Don't know if you're joking. That's fun. Hey, caramba.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm not seeing a lot of fault lines here.
Mm-mm.
Oh, hold on. I'm looking it up here.
Although
I
we
think
got
it was a
Green is
reverse
safe.
fault on the Keweenaw Peninsula of the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. The
Reverse
Keweenaw fault. I don't know.
Huh.
I Grant, I wish I'm actually trying to see if I can find my old damn.
Huh.
Well, there's a speech.writing. I wonder what the hell that is.
Yeah, I can't claim to know a lot about this one. I know just in the little I read today that if you follow the supposed energy grid across the earth, you get like a lot of famous landmarks, the pyramids, and Machu Picchu falls on these lines, and some other ones as well. And
We don't have llamas in the UP. I wish.
maybe at the zoo, might be. I don't know.
Oh, wait, does the zoo have llamas? It might. It wouldn't surprise me.
I
don't
think
know.
they might have one or two.
Oh, yeah, nice.
But yeah, a lot of cultures have belief in this. Australians, Egyptians, Incas, Chinese, yada 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 yada. I don't know though. I don't know if this would. I don't know how this would work. So just like those areas are more susceptible to producing unexplained phenomena. Is that the idea here?
In the new agey sense, probably.
I don't know. I don't know about this one either.
What do you,
Yeah.
Cody?
A lot about a lot, but not about this apparently. Anybody else have anything here on the lines, energy lines or the ley lines? Okay,
I know.
next.
I know. Oh, I was going to say. I know ley lines have been thrown around as an idea for centuries.
For the
don't
Paulding
know
Light?
if by centuries you mean 1966.
I thought maybe you knew something we didn't know.
No.
No one ever takes the time to read the other side of the sign, Justin.
It says turn back while you still can. But yeah, I don't think there's ever been any sort of, if there have been attempts to explain or delve into that, I don't think they've ever come up with anything substantial. So ley lines are a very iffy subject in my mind.
Okay. Next one I have here is swamp gases, which I think Hudson was alluding to a bit ago, but I guess the idea here is basically that balls of trapped gas come up through swampy, nasty areas where there's not a lot of movement in the water and gases accumulate. And some interesting tidbits. I didn't know about this. Matt mentioned the will-o'-the-wisp thing, which is supposedly a legend about a guy with his soul, but apparently there's also one about a guy named Jack, and that's where we get jack-o'-lanterns from.
Huh.
Origin
Weird.
101. Here we go, folks. Who knew? They make a jack-o'-lantern to represent the trapped soul of this guy in a swamp gas bubble, apparently. And then also, I guess the gas that produces this phenomenon is actually the same gas that people look for when they are fracking.
Makes sense.
So there's that. So we got potential light bubbles here, or different types of bubbles coming up, but
I got some swamp gas bubbles for you.
begs some of the same problems to me, like they wouldn't be consistent enough. Not to mention it's not very swampy there.
No, it's not
No.
at all.
There's the
There's a-
river, but
Yeah.
it's not really swampy.
I would be surprised if there was a lot of swamp gas in that area.
Same. I
Hudson, you
swamp gas-
mentioned this earlier.
I just for a short period of time, I got really into this topic and I searched out all sorts of kind of ghost lights. Might have been when I was doing that project for that class. I don't remember when.
What do you remember what your conclusion was?
They weren't ghosts.
All right.
There you have it.
I meant more
And
like, did
then-
you find that the swamp gases were the explanation for a lot of the so-called ghost lights?
No, it just seems like to me like that'd be like more of a random thing that would just sort of happen intermittently, not every night.
Yeah. Okay. All right. And then the last one I have on my list, unless anybody has some other ones here, and this is oddly not listed on a website I've seen, but just has always been a weird theory of mine.
Mhm.
Could it be a hoax? Could it be like a family that has carried this actual tradition on for years?
For 60 years? 56?
I mean, if the light you guys are talking about is a light that no one walks all the way to, it would not be that hard to set a light up, even one that's shown in only one direction, not the other, and then turn the light on at night. It wouldn't be that hard. I mean,
I'm
I could
gonna
do it in
say
my
no.
backyard.
I mean, it's possible people do commit a lot of time and energy to a lot of really stupid things, but this is a lot. This is like generational. I mean, we can
Mhm.
barely get people to like keep stores running that their parents opened because, because they want to do other things. This is an awful long time to devote to a prank, especially because it's not really, I don't see loads of Paulding Light merchandise or,
Yeah.
Merch coming in.
advertising or anything.
They're not in it for the money, Justin.
Maybe this ties into what you were talking about before with like ball lightning or something, but like, I mean, a theory that I would think would be out there somewhere, which I've heard to explain a lot of things in the UP, is the fact that there are a lot of minerals, and there's a lot of like iron ore and copper and various other minerals in the UP, and like I've heard people ascribe various different phenomena to those. Like, I mean, like I said, I would be more inclined to believe that it is some sort of like electromagnetic reaction or phenomenon related to that sort of thing, as opposed to being like a supernatural thing.
Mhm.
But I mean, I don't think any of the like supposed debunkings or like the theories that you've talked about, I don't know if any of those really would explain it to me. Whereas like I would maybe believe that it was some sort of like just reaction to like the metal or like a electromagnetic response to the earth and the UP itself. I don't know.
Couple of things really quick. When you mentioned a possible hoax, I had completely forgotten about this
Oh no.
until this
Oh my
exact
God!
moment.
Wait, Hudson, are you about to tell us that your family has been
Paulding
perpetuating
Light?
themselves
No,
for the past 6
back
years?
in I believe it was 1999. I was in documentary class and I had to make a fake documentary, and my fake documentary involved like people hoaxing something like the Paulding Light. Like I completely forgot that I made this thing. It turned out to be some random redneck just hitting a tree with a rake or something. I don't remember. It was funny thing is I made it like right after that movie where they had the three people in the woods get lost. You know the one I'm talking about, Blair Witch.
Blair Witch.
Yeah.
Project, yeah.
Yeah, and
That's a
like
true
I
story.
watched Blair Witch afterwards, and my professor was like, I understand you're copying Blair Witch and all, and I'm like, I had never actually seen it, and it was like a fairly like because I just had like each of my three friends had a different camera, and we filmed it 3 different times. It was not all that different in concept, I guess.
Huh.
I thought it was supposed to be kind of funny, but my friend playing the homicidal redneck is actually quite terrifying in my mind.
Okay.
Oh, what's the other thing I was going to say? Oh shit, I lost it.
Well,
I lost it.
All right,
gone.
fair.
Oh, now I remember.
Yeah.
Now, I just pulled up on Wikipedia the page on Will-o'-the-Wisps, and it says notable Will-o'-the-Wisps include the St.
Ooh.
Louis Light in Saskatchewan, the Spook Light in southwestern Missouri and northwest Oklahoma, the Marfa Lights of Texas, the Niagara Fireballs of the Mekong and Thailand, the Paulding Light in Upper Wikipedia calls it a
Nice.
Will-o'-the-Wisp, and if Wikipedia says it, it gotta be true.
Well, that's it then. That's the end of the episode.
Well,
yep, well,
mystery solved. Good night,
Mystery
everybody.
solved. Except where Justin got that hat from.
And what?
Yeah. All right. Well, so I don't know. I just last thing I can think to say here about this is just that, it is a local mystery. And if Matt's saying they have these in many places, which I've heard of a few of these other than this one, but
You gotta watch the Garden Light episode.
I
you
do.
owe yourself that. You owe yourself that.
I am curious, I have to say.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll watch it.
They're only like 8 minutes long usually. So
I mean, it sounds like none of us are particularly convinced about like any given explanation, though. Which I mean, I think that's interesting.
I'm fairly sold. I'm fairly sold on the car lights thing myself.
I am not at all. No,
Well, that's kind of the note I was saying here.
I've never seen anything above or below that really
Same.
makes. I've only seen the thing like right at the. And I remember what Justin was saying, like they zoom in and you can see like the license plate and everything.
Yeah.
With the telescope. So
yeah, it's pretty pronounced. But then again, I haven't seen anything.
I'll have to watch
into the
that footage
woods
also.
Yeah.
So
I almost wish I did. Like going out there is, to be honest, I know I'm a cynical son of a bitch now, but like going out there is a really kind of a magical thing. The first time you do it, it's like, I don't know. Like I just remember going out, like you want so bad to see something. I think we just saw some like star in the sky, and I like convinced myself that it was moving. Like
Could have been some. Maybe I saw some really high fireflies or something. I don't know. Who knows? Well, that's what I was gonna say too. Like one of my favorite things about this mystery is just what Joe said, which is people like don't have a conclusion as to what they believe it is.
Yeah, I mean, I think of myself as fairly skeptical. I mean, if I felt like there was, a clear explanation for this, I would believe it. But I can't really explain what I experienced, what I saw. I mean, I don't think car headlights really explains it. So that's just part of the mystery to me. I mean, like I said, I'm not saying it was ghosts. Like I don't necessarily think it was something, supernatural, but
Right.
I don't feel like there really is like a clear, obvious explanation for it.
Yeah, and I kind of agree. It's like we just went through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 or 8 different theories, and like all of them have minor merit but big flaws. So I don't even know. Like we talked about at the beginning of this before we started recording, like trying to come up with a spectrum here to rate this mystery, and that was even a bit of a debate. And we don't usually tip our hands before we get to the end of the episode with what we believe or what our thoughts are, but I think maybe that's what we were all hinting at without saying it so much.
yeah.
So I don't know how do we handle this? Do we do it 1 to 10 somehow, or do we say what we think it's most likely? I don't know. I don't know what to say on this one.
On a scale from car headlights to Justin's hat.
I mean, my hat clearly exists. So
What hat?
wasn't dropped it by car headlights.
Dun, dun, dun. That'd have been great if he had like reached up and like touched his hat and like a big like.
oh, I should have thought ahead.
Dang it all, Justin. We knew it the whole time. I don't know. So this is the first episode we've done where I don't know how to do a rating, or do we just say what we think it's most likely? Is that easier?
We could do that. I mean, if we were doing a scale, it could be from like 0 could be
completely mundane.
Yeah, like if we think it's been explained like in a mundane way, 0 could be like we feel like it has been fully like explained and debunked, and 10 could be we feel like it has not been debunked at all. I don't know.
Yeah,
that seems fair.
God, 0 is like man-made. 10 is like we don't know. I don't know. I guess let's just throw out a number and say why you did it.
Okay, that works.
Yes. Okay. Well,
from no to yes.
From no to yes.
Okay, fine. I'll take point on this, and you guys can follow my lead, or you can go off in your own direction, whichever you prefer. All right. So, I do agree with what some of the others have said, that there's a lot of odd geography, well, both actually, in the UP.
Yes.
For those of you listeners who've never been up here, there are spots in the Upper Peninsula, where GPS systems won't work right because there's so much iron ore in the ground still, and that it interferes with how they actually can pinpoint your location. Same with compasses. There are still plenty of areas up here that are cell phone dead zones. So in light of that, and no pun intended, and taking into account that some of you have seen things beyond just the light off in the distance, I'm going to reframe my initial assessment of this, because going into this, despite the hat, I think I was of the mind that it could all be explained pretty much by entirely mundane means. But given that some of you have had different experiences than me, and that they don't match up to anything that car headlights can directly explain, I'm gonna give this a rating of 2. The stuff in the distance, I'm fairly certain it can be explained through normal, everyday, man-made means, but the lights in the woods or below the horizon or above or what have you, that's a different story. And you can't explain that with the headlights, at least not car headlights on the highway. Is it geology? Is it some sort of electromagnetic thing? Is it just some kids in the woods with flashlights? I don't know. But I am.
So now you're saying the kids with flashlights is a possibility now, huh? Okay.
I don't think I'd ever said they weren't.
Generational hoaxes would take a lot of time to do that.
They could. I've been out there like 5 or 6 times. I never saw anything in the outlying areas of the woods. So that shows that they're not out there every night.
Fair.
But I did see kids on ATVs, just being jackasses, kicking up dust for the tourists who come to try and catch a glimpse of this phenomenon. So I'm going to give this a rating of 2. It's mostly mundane, but there are parts of it that could have explanations that I don't have a solid 100% rationale behind. So there's a slight chance there could be something at work here that we don't quite understand, but I think it's unlikely.
You just made me, I don't know why I just thought of this now, because again, I have not visited this topic either literally or just thinking about it in such a long time. But I remember first few times I went out there too, this is neither here nor there, but a lot of people would talk about down by the creek, they would hear kids laughing, like little kids laughing.
Huh.
That was like another thing I remember the first 2 times I went out there, they were like, yeah, you can hear like little kids like laughing when you're down by the water down there in the woods. And I was like,
Well, that's a new one to me.
yeah, but it's not,
Grumble.
All right. I'll go. I'll say I'm unconvinced that it is car lights in the distance that produce that constant light for a couple reasons. Number one, you would have to have the perfect steady stream of cars always for it to be there. And number 2, I don't know, even just the angles. Like I've tried to do like the geometry of all this and figure out, I mean, I guess if you're saying they had the telescope and they could see, then I guess there's a Joe's fingers back. And there's an option that you could see the whole way down there as a sight line. But that compiled with the fact that I've seen some little tiny orbs in the trees much closer to us. And the fact that we had the weird experience down the trail that I really can't explain, of the noise and the singular, what I thought was a car headlight, but then was not because it was gone. There's definitely something here. And I do agree a little bit with what Matt said, which is like, it's definitely one of those places where like you go there wanting to see something and probably are more likely to pick up on some experience that you have while you're there, because you're just wanting to believe in so many ways, or wanting to have something happen or to see or whatever. That being said, I'm kind of in the middle on this one, so I'm going to put this at a 6. That I think there is probably something that could be out there. Possibilities of man-made options, I guess, fulfilling what this could be, maybe, but it definitely seems like there's something weird, and enough people have had some weird experiences there that, I don't know, that's not even necessarily that I want to believe on this one, like the ghosts or other things we've talked about, but I'm going to put it at a 6 and watch Joe shake his hands in the air.
No, I mean, Ben, were you gonna go, or?
It's okay. I can go, or you can go.
I mean, first of all, I don't know how I didn't notice the hat in the background hanging on your wall until just now.
That's a sweet hat.
What ghost did you steal that from?
I
My
didn't steal
question.
that. That was my dad's. We used it in like every high school video I ever made.
Nice.
However, that piece of wood right there,
Yeah.
that's from the scary abandoned haunted orphanage.
Ooh, that's definitely not going to come back to haunt you at any point.
It's been on my wall for a decade now, and my
Wait,
life
where is that from?
The
The
orphanage.
orphanage.
The Marquette
Yeah.
Orphanage?
Yeah.
The
okay.
orphanage.
Dear
The
God.
holy, was it the Holy Child Orphanage? or-
Holy-
Holy Family, I think.
Yeah,
Family,
something like
something
that.
like that, yeah.
That's
Something like
that's a
that.
bad idea.
Some random YouTube video I saw randomly put it as the most haunted orphanage in the world, and someone with the last name of Holman said that they had visited there, and I'm like, huh, Holman and Marquette, who'd have
How,
guessed?
how about that?
Do I want to be a buzzkill and tell you that it's apartments now?
No,
It
I
is
visited them. I
apartments.
visited
okay,
the apartments
okay,
when I was there.
gotcha. Oh, that's okay. That's right. That's right. I
They're
forgot
very
about
nice
that.
apartments, actually. I like them. I
Yeah.
lived there.
Did they utilize all of the space? We're getting off topic here, but
Pretty much. At
Is
least
it
from what I've
like-
seen.
part of me hopes that they're like have these nice apartments, but like if you're living the right apartment, just on the other side of your wall is like an unrenovated, still nasty as hell, spooky place.
I mean, some of the original brickwork is there. Like you'll be going down a hallway, it'll be all nice and renovated, and then there will be kind of like a patch of just old bricks. And it's like, oh, that's an interesting choice.
We have to patch
Huh.
that spot every evening.
Oh boy.
But yeah.
All right. Anyway,
Hudson, what do you got?
Oh, okay. So I think I'm gonna go with Justin and say 2. The lights I have seen are probably car headlights. They look like car headlights to me. They seem like car headlights to me. However, the 2 literally is just because of all the miss notifications that this freaking place appeared on Unsolved Mysteries. I don't know where that came from. That is crazy to me. I was just looking I was looking at the St. Louis, the one that apparently someone else who listened to this podcast said that they were looking for their ghost light on Unsolved Mysteries. The website the Wikipedia page for the St. Louis light says that it was on Unsolved Mysteries, and I can guarantee you it is not. It's not listed on the Unsolved Mystery Wiki. It's not. I never heard of the thing. It's not there.
So I mean, this itself is an unsolved mystery.
Yes.
Its inclusion on Unsolved Mysteries is an unsolved mystery.
What are they trying to hide?
So you're going with the 2?
I'm going with a 2. I think it's probably pretty mundane. I've become much more cynical in my old age.
Man. I mean, like I said, I don't think it was car headlights at all. I just that just does not explain what I experienced. Ultimately, as seems to be a trend with this podcast, and this is why I was shaking my hands at Cody when he gave his rating, because I'm going to give the exact same rating. For a podcast called Friends Occasionally Not Disagreeing, and given the fact that in real life you guys will know that Cody and I pretty much never agree on anything, it seems like we it seems like we agree an awful lot on this podcast. Yeah, I was gonna give it a 6. I mean, I none of the explanations I've heard I feel like are satisfactory and really explain what I've seen. I mean, like I said, I'm not going to say that I think it's something paranormal, but I do think that it is something other than car headlights or something that defies, an easy explanation like that. I mean, like I said, I try to be a skeptical person. I've really experienced just a handful of things in my life that I really cannot explain. And I mean, I've talked about a couple of them now on this podcast. Maybe I'll talk about the other big one at some point if we ever do a podcast about that topic. But yeah, I my experience, I just don't think really lines up with any of these explanations. So I would put it at a 6. I think it's pretty strange. I don't think it's really that easily identifiable. And yeah, I mean, I honestly would be curious to kind of go back there again at this point in my life and just kind of re-experience it and see. But
get eaten alive by mosquitoes.
That I
Yeah.
mean that too.
Oh God, those are bad.
They are.
I mean, that's the benefit of going there in the dead of winter.
Yeah, I'm
True.
trying to think. I don't think I ever went there in the winter that I can recall.
Yeah.
It's a different
Oh,
experience.
I think one thing we've all forgotten to mention at this point in time is that every one of these ghost lights phenomenons adds the addendum that they were experienced before the advent of cars. Like every single like one of their like
Oh.
any
Except the
page
Paulding
on the
Light,
Yeah, if the
Paulding
Paulding
Light's
Light's
not-
1966.
Yeah.
hold on. Back when I was originally looking it up, it said again, I'm only going to use YouTube.
We
here.
don't know when cars were introduced to the UP.
It's true.
I mean,
No, the Wikipedia says first reported in 1966. So maybe I was getting my ghost lights confused back in the day.
Yeah.
I really thought it was before. Because I remember like something being like, it could be car lights, except it'd been seen before cars were there.
Dun dun
I mean,
dun.
the UP is only just now getting Nickelback, so
they do play him on the radio, or them on the radio, a surprising amount.
That's fair. Well, this is
Look at
a,
this Paulding Light. What?
this has been an interesting episode.
It does.
It was good. We needed to get back into the two of the genres we haven't been in a while is the supernatural, cryptozoology, and music, which we're scheduled to go to next week.
Oh, teaser.
Teaser. We got a fun challenge for our hosts for next week, so we'll see how that goes. All right, any closing thoughts from anybody we haven't covered yet?
It's kind of neat if you ever get a chance to venture out into this neck of the woods. Yeah, you can find hell, the Paulding Light has a little marker on Google Maps. You can find directions there pretty easily. It's worth seeing at least once in your life just to draw your own conclusions.
I like how Justin's like, here's a plug for UP travel and tourism. You can use Google Maps because there's a spot on there.
Yeah,
5
no,
minutes
yeah.
after he got done telling us there's no GPS in certain sections of the UP. This is how murders are committed, folks.
No, we don't need more tourists up here in general. I mean, they keep building hotels and people keep filling them up, and
That's
you can't even see the
true.
lake.
Yes.
But I mean, if anyone needs a free hat, that might be a good place to check. I'm just
Yeah,
true.
yeah.
This is very true. All right. Well, I guess we have 2 people that believe it's cars and 2 people aren't really sure what it is on this one.
I can change my rating to a 1 or a 3, so we're disagreeing if that makes you feel better.
No, we got 2 camps.
Yeah, we got a good
better-
we got a good split here.
Yeah.
2 of us are right and 2 of you just don't believe in anything. So
Haven't for years.
Yeah.
we're gonna put both of you in like a haunted castle or something. And
Hey, if you're paying for the
Oh,
tickets,
shit.
once we get all that sweet royalty money off this podcast, once we start
Yeah.
having ads and
We
have,
need some
have an audience,
sponsors,
just get ready,
yeah.
folks. We're gonna be blowing up here.
Get that
Yeah, the-
Patreon going.
I'm
Yeah,
talking about.
yeah, help fund the Fond Ghost Investigators. we can do this.
Yes, I'm talking about. All right, well, I guess that's going to wrap us up for this week's episode on the Paulding Light, and we'll sing our song today in the style of a spooky movie from the 1960s. Till then, everyone, I'm Cody.
I'm Joe.
I'm Justin.
That's this guy. Trying to play the cynic card as much as you can. All right, here we go. See you, everyone. We'll see you next time on.
Yeah.
Where's my hat?